All right, folks. What are we doing today? Well, it's going to be Studebaker Day. That's what it's going to be. I would really like to get this motor stabbed back into there. Even more so if I can get it to run. But I'm not going to hold my hopes too high. I did get brake parts. Last time I've actually cut my rear drums. They're all good and cherry. We got a good set of used pads to put in the back. I did get my wheel cylinders. And right now I am just doing a really loosey-goosey sling of my little cheap Amazon wiring harness that I got. And I'm almost resenting not doing a painless right now, but these are really good, but they always have wiring in all dumb places. And I've actually done wiring, like explain slinging out these harnesses to folks and stuff, but it's like even if I put an Amazon link, they end up, I would keep buying from the same Amazon link, and you know, every couple of months you end up getting a different harness and they're not the same. And so overall they're usually the same if you go with a cheapy Amazon. The thing I always find to look for on a cheapy Amazon, I'm just using that as a little reference, usually $150 or less kind of dealio, is you look for the headlight plugs, if you see that in the description, and if you see these plugs. This is always going to be a GM plug. Then you know at least you're getting a wiring harness that is headlight to taillight. A lot of the cheaper harnesses and stuff you see on there, like $80, something like that, you'll see it, but what's going to happen is you're going to have like a wire like this, and it's going to say this is headlights, and then it's like nothing. There's like, it doesn't run anywhere. It's like you have to supply your own wires. So that's the only thing that's nice with these. When you get in under here, it'll have like, you know, I got my oil sender, horn, like you'll have your high beam, low beam, everything for your tail light, fuel gauge, under the hood, like charging system, like provided you always see, this is like I say, this is what I always look for on a cheapy one anyways, is to see this kind of a plug. Then I know it's a true headlight to taillight kit. I'm not going to get into detail with it. I like to just pluck through these and just do it. They zone these things out. And I noticed the one time I did a painless, it did it like flawless. And this one was, I had to fart around with it because this, for example, is going to like the rear. I'll have a fuel gauge. I'll have a third brake light, and sometimes I'll have like the dome lights in here for some reason. And same with the, you know, there's always wires that are going in the wrong places. So whatever. We'll, again, I'm not going to get into this one, but I'm going to sling this thing out. I'm going to zone it out because that's all I feel like doing tonight. And then tomorrow, I guess what I'm going to try to do is, the front brakes were good, so I feel like we're going to start plumbing. Oh, we'll get into what I got. I've got my wheel cylinders, so these are the right ones that I was looking for. The other ones I had a weird snap ring on it. So these are the rear ones. We'll be able to get the rear brakes all together. And then these were the residuals that I'm looking for. So what these do is they hold pressure to the brake lines. So blue is 2 pounds, so that holds the disc brakes to the front. It just leaves a little bit of pressure on there, so when you hit the pedal, it doesn't just flop to the floor. And then you got a 10-pound for drum brakes. There's 10 pound to the back. So those are the things I'm waiting. These are going to be pretty close to the master cylinder because what it's going to do is hold pressure. So there's going to be less fluid I have to push when the, you know, if you hit your brakes, you go. This keeps 10 pounds of pressure on that, so I don't need to push all that fluid that wants to flow back. Anyways, I rambled on with that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely sling out the wire the way I want. I would like to throw it into the truck. I'm probably going to have to just commit and just rip the dash out and a few things. Or, man, like the cluster's there. I don't know what I'm doing in here, but this stuff's like broken and kind of junky, so I might pull it all out to see what I gotta, if I can fix any of it or retrofit something else behind it. But the glass being broken, it's kind of junky, but that's at least flat and somebody can replace that, or I can replace it. None of these other lines and buttons do anything. I don't have the keys for it, but I'll probably try to at least get a universal key into there. See if I can find, I'm gonna guess with the L, one of these is the light switch. I don't know. Well, mind you, that might be the light switch. I don't know now. Whatever. I got to dig into that, tear it apart. So that's probably a tonight thing, hopefully. We'll start with the wiring and see how far I get from there. Anyways, let's get started. All right, well, we're almost done. I'm really going to go through it. I'm not going to. It's just usually when you do the cheaper harnesses, this is probably what frustrates people is just if this is taillight section, it's just like I said before, it's not always that. So like I'm going to the front of the car here and we got signal lights, we got stuff like that. And then I have like random stuff. Well, here's like power antenna, so I'm not going to use that. This one was like the front marker lights. Like the power just for your marker lights was like tied in with the dash lights, like the dash wiring. Like it's just weird stuff like that that will confuse a fella. This is why I always like run through this. And I guess if you haven't done a lot of these wiring, then that gets frustrating because you don't, I don't know, maybe you don't know different or do something like that. So I kind of break it down because like I say, I always say zones, but things like that get mixed up and then it gets very confusing and it just doesn't come out the way it should. Anyways, there's a few things like that that don't make sense. Like it was having the fuel gauge and my dash lights were on a separate little wire. Like, my gauge wiring. And there was another one. It was a weird one. Oh, sorry. I know what it was. It was my fuel gauge and my front marker lights were like tied together for some reason, not into the headlight switch wiring. I don't know. I'm not really going to rant on it because I expect it when I buy a cheap one, but when people buy cheap ones, they always ask me if they want like what I bought, and I don't like recommending these because I'm okay dealing with it and just farting through this, just having a wobble pop and just go through the whole thing. It's not a big deal, but to somebody buying it figuring they're just going to throw it in their vehicle and just use it, it doesn't work very well that way. So just being fair about it. Because they save a bunch of bucks doesn't mean it's the way to go. Anyways, I'm going to finish doodling with this a little bit, probably about as far as I'm going to get tonight. Tomorrow I'll probably tear the dash out just so I can just sling the wiring harness through. It won't go anywhere specific at this point. It'll go to the specific places I want it to go. Like I'll run it through the grommet, so I'll make sure the headlight section's here, but it might be just zip tied. Motor's going to be like zip tied. The dash stuff is just going to poke out of the dash for now. I'll run the wiring down the frame, down the back to where the fuel tank's going to go, and in the general area of the rear taillights and stuff like that. Same with the headlight stuff. I'll probably run them. I'll pull them through and put them where they're supposed to be, but not worry about it right now. I just this thing's been sitting here. I just want to string it through the vehicle and just kind of have it in its place, and then we'll worry about it a different time. But then we'll kind of switch over and do brakes once I get that out of the way. It's like, I don't mind wiring. A lot of people don't. So it takes time. That's the problem. I wouldn't say a problem. It's just, it takes a lot of time. All right, last night I got a little more done than I wanted. I did throw the wiring in the truck here, in our little Camino. I ran the wiring, I kind of loosely just ran it. I'm just gonna tie it. And, well, it just kind of is what it is for now. We'll kind of revisit this and clean this up a little, but I'm just slowly stabbing everything where it's gotta go. So there's still the big mess under here. I'm gonna pack that up once I can figure out how to get all the gauges and stuff out. I think that panel right there is gonna come out because I think that was all for the overdrive stuff on the car here. So I don't think any of that is necessary, and it'll help me get behind a dash to see what's going on in there. Well, now, we ran all the brake lines. I haven't done any fasteners or nothing yet, so I still got to do that. I realized I ran this line down, or the electrical down. It's not 100% yet. It's just kind of zapped in place. It needs some more fasteners, and I have to run the brake switch down too yet. I forgot about that. Anyways, we got brake lines are all run, front, back, did the hose, made a tab. We mounted our shocks, so they're all in place. Brake lines are run side to side. The only thing I got to do now that we have this temporarily kind of just done is I got to bust this loose, bleed the master, because I haven't done that. Luckily, I can kind of do that from down here because we can just grab the pedal and kind of do our business that way. And so I'm going to bleed this. I don't think I put any screws up into there. I'm going to bench bleed this, and then we'll bleed all of our brakes. These other ones were a bugger because I forgot how they went together. So I don't have some e-brakes yet, so I'll have to get that. The one cable's still good, so I can reuse that, but I can't reuse, like there's nothing to reuse on this side. So I'll kind of like shimmy this over some way to make it work for me. I'm thinking what I'm gonna do yet is actually get that fuel tank. Oh, I don't have a sender for it. So I might not be able to do that just yet. I was gonna run the fuel line and stuff, but now I just realized I don't have a sending unit for that fuel tank. I have to order. I think I'm gonna have to actually order a few gauges, and even if I recess them behind the dash from the factory stuff, because we're running mechanical, I should be able to reuse the like the speedometer, the mechanical speedometer, hopefully, if it's not broken. But yeah, fuel tank will go on hold for a bit till I actually order something. And then, well, anyways, next step, I gotta get that old brake light off. Next step is gonna be to bench bleed the master cylinder. Well, we're gonna bleed it in the car, bench bleed it, if that makes sense, and get the brakes bled. And then I think right after that, the next step is gonna be popping the motor out of that thing, getting it back in this thing, and then we can try to figure out this steering stuff. Maybe even get that pinion angle set. I don't have that done yet. We'll have to loosen those, get our pinion angle set, weld the diff in, make sure it's square, weld it in, and I don't know, one step closer to maybe making it mobile under its own power. All right, well, we got the back bled, the front not so much. This was like a bugger, I couldn't get this thing out. Anyways, turns out it's a good thing because the bleeder's actually like all full of sputs. So all I am going to do, just so, oh, I see somebody's broken all my drill bits, is we're just gonna stick us, what is it, a 964s? I think that's the size of that. We're gonna get all the dirt out of it so this thing's open. So they can't even, I don't even see the bleeder thing on the bottom. There's supposed to be a hole in there. I'm not sure, I think it's here. Anywho, we'll clean it out because I think the caliper's good. It just can't breathe. I think one of these is like the actual hole here for the bleeder. I go with my hunch. There we go. Well, that'll help us to bleed the front brake, that's for sure. Perfect. I couldn't get it loose, so I heated it with the torch there. Then that thing cracked loose instead of breaking it off. Just a little bit of heat with a, well, it's not really propane, but this actually gets a lot hotter. But what is this, MAP gas, I think they call it? Anyways, did that. This came loose. And then usually you're supposed to have your hole, but there's a cap normally, like a rubber cap. It was gone. And then at the bottom, this is the hole we couldn't find. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyways, we're going to continue back to our bleeding, which with my master cylinder here under the floor that I can reach the pedal makes it very easy for a feller to bleed brakes by himself. All you need is a bungee cord and a little bucket to catch your fluid. I guess you don't have to. You can make a big mess if you want. I prefer not to make a mess if I can avoid it. Snug that one up. Stick our bleeder wrench on here. We did the back already, like I said, so all I have is a catch bottle with a little button that kind of does the business of catching the mess. And it gives me a clear hose to see if there's bubbles or anything. If there's any air in the system. Got there. And on this side I got a bungee cord. To which I can pump my brake pedal, get a bit of pressure. Ooh, we got some good pressure. Get a bungee cord on there and then crack it. We should be. Well, it's got brakes, and they're pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna put that brake switch in like I said I was gonna do. I don't know how many times. At least get that in there. Inside, I still gotta actually run the wires out. I didn't do that for the brake switch, but hey, technically it's a roller and it's got brakes. Well, that was hot garbage and sucked a lot.
Alright, man. I guess, I mean, in the big picture, it's actually pretty cool, but not knowing what I'm doing made it suck. Basically, you just unbolt the dash. It's the fastest. So it'd be like 2 bolts, whatever, 4, 8 bolts, and then 8 bolts and a screw. Then the dash just poop falls off. So, you know.
Hindsight, if I had known that, I was trying to get the screws. I managed to find 2 of these, but I couldn't see behind the dash. And then I basically just said, screw it, I'm going to take the dash out. And, well, that actually worked out to be the right way, I guess. But everything is pretty, like, it's not terrible. Like, the setup here is pretty good, but when you look at it, I'm like, I could retrofit, and I actually did just order some generic gauges. I was just going to sink 4 behind, but the speedometer is the big problem because it's like a big sweepy style, and the best I can tell is it's pretty doggone stuck. It does not turn. I haven't tried too hard yet, but judging by a screw miss, I don't know if people have been playing in here already or not, so I'm not sure where I'm going with this yet. Not too concerned. We'll try to wire up what we can do. I'm basically just focusing on just making it turn with a key. Doesn't have to be in the dash for now. I mean, I need the dash back in for the steering column portion of this thing to work. But yeah, I guess I'm not dead set on that dash, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not into heavily customizing this thing. So I don't know if I'm just gonna, man, but the Studi part's like what makes it inside. So I can't really just cut stuff out. So, because you know how all this stuff flows. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. I guess hindsight, if a guy was modifying this, I could fill these. I could stick my other gauges here and I can get a small speedometer. I don't know how big that is. I could probably put, I've seen some smaller, you know, GPS speedometers like I always use. Maybe it would fit in here. It's 3-inch. So they're usually 3 and something. I know I can get a 2-inch, but that's pretty, well, maybe that would work. Maybe do that, and then I do my other gauges here, and we just fill these, get rid of them, and then we kind of semi-retain the original dash. The original had a bullet in the middle there, which looked like this. So this is what was in the middle. And, you know, not the end of the world. I guess I could use this as a horn ring or something. This sat in there, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm leaning to the other option. So the best I can tell, this looks broken. Hopefully I can repurpose these knobs because they're pretty cool. But I think the way this thing was is you got lights. This is lights. It was pulling in and out, but now it won't lock in place. So I don't know if it's buggered. This one, judging by the IL, I'm imagining that one's like instrument lights. It would have done that. And then I have no idea what those are. This is something drive. I feel it was, oh, unless it was something to do with the heaters. Oh, because of the little, it's got these little, whatever you call these things, the little heat coils or something in the back. So maybe these are for the different, maybe this was like D is for defrost because that was its own little fan. And I don't know what the A is, but I'm going to guess that's like all around heat. I don't know. Well, they're kind of making sense. Then down here, what I thought was maybe overdrive, well, one of them was. It was like the mechanical, you would give it the tug. Other one kind of scoobied around and it was like my hood latch. I don't remember which was which. I don't remember which was which. Like the hood latch would have to be pretty long. I'm going to guess this knob was probably the hood. Because it comes all the way out here. It's a longer one. I don't know. But I kind of think I made up a game plan. I'm going to do that. I probably want to just throw a bit of paint before I put it back in. I don't know if I'm going to do that right now. But I think we'll just end up zapping it, give it some primer, give it a slack of paint. We can get into some of this stuff, but we'll have to get some switches and things.
Some of these might be usable. I'll have to test them. Although I don't know that these ones pull. So I'm probably SOL with a lot of this stuff. My new heater is going to be just a single heater, and it's going to do everything. So some of these buttons might be just for cosmetic. They're not actually going to do anything. Especially the lights. The lights is going to do everything or nothing. So the instrument one's just for show. That one's going to be for show, that one will be for show, and I'll maybe make that one my heater. Again, provided I can actually, should be able to adapt it and kind of zap it to a modern switch and make all that work. Anyways, getting ahead of myself there. Don't really care right now. I think what I want to do is actually rip this motor out and just get it aloft back into its home here. Like I said, I did order some gauges, so I did get, it's got an electric oil and electric water temp, so that part's good. I have to change this water pump because I didn't realize, somebody had commented, forgot your name, sorry, that if this is a serpentine, the water pump turns backwards. So that was good to know, because I was just going to smash a pulley on there and call it a day. So I have to go to the shed, grab a water pump, grab a set of pulleys. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do before I go is or pull this thing out, is I'm going to mark this thing up for Trevor so that he can kind of notch out. So weird. Well, I guess it is off-centered. I was like, it's so weird. Anyways, we're going to mark this up so he can actually cut out a spot to fit his distributor when the body's off, because we're going to carve into the bottom of that tank a bunch. But for now, I just want this sucker out. Unfortunately, my forklift is still down, so I'm going to have to go and hoof it with that thing. But we get that in, we'll be that much closer to actually firing this thing up. Well, I'm pretty happy where I got. Our motor is back in. That's about as far as we got. Transmission bolted in. I schlung the drive shaft. It's good. I still have to set the pinion angle. I got to drop this thing, I think, another 3 degrees or so. And then I think we're good. Then we can come back, weld this up. Don't know if I showed that, but I just welded a tang on there. And we smashed the shocks on. They're the original shocks. They're still working. They don't feel bad. Like, there's no oil leakage. And when you're using them, they feel good. So that's fine. I'm not too concerned. Nothing's tied up here. We did add some zip ties. I know some people would say I should be wrapping this, but I don't really know what's going to hit it. It's under the car, but it's not like nothing's gonna cut it. I mean, I guess I can put some loom on it, but I'm not too concerned right now anyways. We don't even have anything with the brake lines. They're not, like, I don't have any fasteners for nothing yet, so we have to revisit all of that. There's just a lot of little things, like, you know, this hasn't been tightened. Basically everything needs a big once over yet, but it's slowly getting there. We're coming up with a plan. Like this. I gotta figure out how this has to work. I guess I'll leave it for there. I'll leave it there for now.
Well, so I'm gonna guess the next stages of things we're gonna play around with here is I'm actually gonna run a little bit of wiring that I gotta do so we can get this thing close to firing. I'm now waiting on some gaskets, some stuff for the gauges. I'm hoping. I just ordered like some random gaugey deals, and I'm thinking I'm gonna try to stick. I don't know. The more I look at this, I'm kind of thinking my speedo thing that I got isn't gonna work in there because that's probably bigger because it's 3 3/8 are the smallest gauge, like speedo. I can get a 2-inch, but I really don't think the later is gonna fit in here now that I look at it. Like 3 3/8, there's just isn't really the room for that. I don't know. I may have to just try. But anyways, I'm pretty committed to that because I just don't have any of the original stuff. So I was originally going to put the Sinkum in there and try to reuse that speedo, but this speedometer is just toast. And I don't want to rebuild it or nothing, so hopefully my speedo thing works. It'll go here and then we'll do the 4 gauges into here, which then means we're going to body work this thing. I'll probably blitz this and paint it if I'm doing that already. And then try to figure out my switch world there. We got a few things on the motor. I got to change the water pump. We'll get our alternator on. Get our exhaust just at least hung so I can fire it. Kind of just wanted to fart around and kind of go a little more full burn on this thing yet, just to try to get it as a roller, or kind of just finish it, kind of just burn through it. This one's not a big high dollar build or nothing, so that one should be super easy, but we got a few bits we're waiting for anyways, so. But I'd like to get this one as a nice roller, like I said. I know that one I'd like to just do on there just to get the chassis. This one I'd like to get up on the hoist to get the chassis stuff all done. As you can see, we got the motor out. So we got to redo the hairpins, do that. I want to get the suspension stuff good and get the body off. It would be nice to do on there just to align and get things set up right. But yeah, so yeah, there's lots going on right now. Anyways, on that note, I'm thinking that is where we're going to leave this one. I'll probably play one more video on this one for now, because I got a bunch of things to do before I get a bunch of parts. Like, there's a bunch of things I can still do on it before parts come in. So yeah, we still got to figure out this whole rad situation too, but I'm pretty sure I have something lying around that'll fit in there. Yeah. Anyways, as always, folks, I want to thank you all for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Later.